Hello guys, this is me Szayelaporro, and in this video I will review the new chapter of Bleach. And frankly, I consider this special chapter consisting of 73 pages the most beautiful gift that Kobo gave us after announcing the return of the anime. Rather, it can be said that seeing new chapters of Kobo's manga is the best thing. Personally, I'm tired of the novel lines that aren't even with Kobo's writing. Now Kobo is giving us new events that open the door of the story of Bleach to hell. And yes, hell figuratively as well as literally. And so guys, I'm not going to review the chapter page by page, but I will talk about the points that excited me and the new things that have been revealed. Because the events of this chapter, in my opinion, the shocking part of them is not only the presence of the death captions in hell, but the suspicious and the terrifying part is Kazui. What came in this chapter puts Kazui under suspicion that he is responsible for all of this. Even more than that, this child may be either manipulated by another person or just owns this sadistic evil personality. How? We will know all this by reviewing the events of this chapter. So the chapter started with a monologue of Kazui talking about two goldfish he was keeping, and one of them died and the one survived. And the one that survived started to grow up and grow up until it became healthy. The weird thing here on this page is that Kazui says that he's happy because the big fish is dead. And this is strange behavior from a child who rejoices over the death about something he loved. And this may explain a terrifying possibility, but I find it weak and I will mention it later. This is from one side. From the other side, we see how Kobo made Kazui unique about several things. And the first of which is possessing that fish that could be a full-bring, since those who have full-bring abilities usually have the ability to be linked to a person's love for something, and later they turned it into their power. So that fish may be a manifestation of Kazui's abilities as a fullbring, or it may be related to the topic of hell, especially that in one of the scenes Zaido was talking about how the gate opened after the disappearance of the Ryatsu of Aizen and Yuabach, and in that scene a fish appeared and it was similar to the fish that Kazui owns. In general, this remains one of the mysterious points about Kazui, and I'll talk about it in a separate video. And another special thing about Kazui is his ability to transform into a Shinigami without having to separate from his physical body. Unlike his father, he does not need any badge or tool in order to transform into a Shinigami, or so it seems, because through these scenes there is no badge in his hand or separation from his physical body, but you can see a sound signal accompanying his transformation. So I think that Kazui may be able to manipulate the nature of his body without any need for a badge, so that he becomes a Shinigami and returns into his normal physical condition. Or it may be that Kisuke Urahara provided Kazui with a device that enables him to transform whenever he wants without having to separate from his physical body. Because we don't have to forget that during those 12 years, the Seiichi has known rapid scientific progress, and as the chapter explained, Kisuke provided them with many inventions, and Mayuri as usual expressed his jealousy about it because everyone prizes Kisuke. And however, the method is to remain special and only belongs to Kazui, but this latter will do the strangest thing this chapter has ever known, or the story as a whole, in my opinion. So when Kazui got out of the house, it came to my mind that this boy is like his father Ichigo. He also had a tendency of helping the lonely souls, because Ichigo from a young age he had this tendency, the tendency to help others, whether dead or alive, and when he grew up he began to provide them with moral support before discovering his powers. And this is what Kazui seemed to do when he told that boy that he would come to play with him, and it appeared that Kazui had already come to him the day before. But this time, because his parents insisted that he shouldn't go out at night, Kazui told the boy that he could no longer come to him, but he told him instead he will send him to a place where he will never be alone. And here the strangeness begins, because if you remember guys, Kazui in chapter 686, when he first transformed into in front of Ichika, he appeared with his Zanpakuto behind his back, but in this chapter he appeared without it. And as long as Kazui knows how to turn into a Shinigami, he certainly knows that souls, when the Shinigami wants to rid them of loneliness, or more precisely purify them, he purifies them through the Konso process, which requires the use of the Zanpakuto by sealing the soul's forehead, so they go to the Soul Society without any problem. And his father Ichigo has already done this with Rukia in the first chapters of the story, but Kazui didn't. And supposedly, if he really wanted to send that boy to the Soul Society, he had to use Konso, and using this technique originally did not require a special place. But for some reason, Kazui ignored all of this and decided to go to a special place next to a Shinto temple. And here Kazui tells Kon, "Is this the first time you have seen this?" And this confirms that what Kazui will do with this boy has already been done before with many souls, I think. And here Kazui makes deliberate moves so that the three balls come out. The three balls, if you look, they look like eyes, and these eyes, remember them well because we will come back to them later. Here Kazui adds some movements and then open a gate. The gate, as everyone notices, looks strange because it's not like the Garganta in terms of shape, for example. It's looked like a jar. Secondly, the gate opened and with it the butterflies of hell. It is true that the butterflies follows the Shinigami when they want to go to and from Soul Society, but this is through the Senkaimon gate. But in the case of Kazui, the gate was in the form of a jar, and after that Kazui said, "See, here everyone is fine, everyone there." So the weird thing here, how did Kazui discover that place in the first place? And who taught him those movements? It is impossible for it to be Ichigo or someone close to him, because they were all surprised after those hollows come from hell. And there is no way a little kid will ever learn such things and do them secretly by himself. And so guys, we will go back to Kazui after we moved right where Kobo took us. And Kobo finally take us to the Soul Society. And as Kobo previously mentioned, I believe in his last interview in a JIT art book, it was mentioned that Ichika is training in the 11th division, and this was confirmed in this chapter. It appeared that she was training under the leadership of Ikako. The nice thing here is that Ikako was the one who previously supervised Renji's training when he was in the 11th division, and back then I think he was in the 6th seat, and now Ikako is coaching his daughter Ichika. I like the relationship between Ikako and Ichika because, as I said before, Ikako has strong relationship with Renji because the latter has always been considered Ikako his senpai, and now Ichika considers him a master. On the other hand, and here we come to the important topic, when it was announced that Bleach was coming with a new chapter, a teaser was attached that Ichigo had received a special invitation to come to the Soul Society, and this invitation, we knew the meaning of it. When Renji told Ichigo, there is a memorial ceremony for the souls of the captains who died in battle, and it's called Konso Reisai, and this ritual will take place 12 years after the captains died in the battle, and this is give us an evidence that the events take place 12 years after the end of the battle of Yohabach and 2 years after the events of the last chapter. The strange thing here is that the events take place at the same time as the events of Burn the Witch, because the events of Burn the Witch story also take place after 10 years. I don't know whether there will be a connection between them or not, but I don't prefer to, and because Bleach is the most important for me. So Renji says to Ichigo that they did this ritual before to captain Yamamoto and the next day to captain Onohana, and on this day it will be Okitake, and because the latter had a relationship with Ichigo, and we also know the strong relationship of Okitake with Rukia, all these factors made Rukia and Kyoraku invite Ichigo to that ritual. And this ritual itself is generally divided into two parts: a section in which the captains are near to the grave of the deceased captain in Soul Society, while the second section is where the vice captain go to the real world to hunt Hollow in order to bring it alive, and then the captains kill it in front of the grave, and so the ritual is done, meaning that this process took place in the previous 2 days with both Yamaji and Yachiro Onohana, as we said. And so in the midst of this conversation, Mayuri appears, and as always, Kobo's habit, in any new events, new arc, Kobo gives him a new mask, but despite the many masks he has, he was unable to hide his anger from Kisuke. As soon as he heard Ichigo's price of Kisuke, he appeared and continued to appear using this technique to all the captains and vice captains, and he was telling them that the vice captains must go to the real world for the beginning of the ritual. And the new thing here is the appearance of Iba's vice captain, the Shinigami Atoi. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. What some may not know is that in Rukia's novel, it was mentioned the vice captain of Iba, and he was Limura, who was in 4th division. And Iba chose that vice captain because he is distinguished in treatment, and Iba was training hard and he was injured, so Limura used it to heal him. And I personally had already told a friend before this chapter came out a long time ago that I didn't like this vice captain as well as this existing relationship between them just in order to heal him. The best Kobo did is to change him. And so the new vice captain, it seems that he's deaf, cannot hear and cannot speak, but he has a special relationship with animals, as we can see in that scene. Birds and animals gather around him. Then after that we see almost all of the vice captains meet in the real world, and Ichigo was with them. And as I said, he was supposed to be with the captains, but Ichigo looked like he got the message wrong. And here Ichigo quickly mentioned a piece of information that he is now working as a translator. And it was mentioned in Rukia's novel that Ichigo, after graduating from high school, he entered the university, majoring English literature, and this corresponds to his work. Also, Renji introduced us to another new character, the vice captain of Lisa, Yaya Harayuyo. In the spoiler, there was a rumor that she was the daughter of Kisuke Ondirichi, and I really hoped that it would be the case, but unfortunately this was not confirmed. At the same time, after Ichika secretly heard that her father and teacher Ikako were going to the real world, she too opened the Senkaimon gate and headed for them. And here appeared Kobo's plot twist. So at the moment when Ichika came out of the Senkaimon gate, the vice captains and Ichigo with them were minding their affairs, and as you can see in this scene, Renji talking to Ichigo and the vice captain, each one looking somewhere. And because Ichika was in the bottom, she could see the infernal hollow. The infernal hollow was without Ryatsu, and therefore the vice captains and Ichigo did not notice his presence, except when Ichika screamed. The hollow directly scratched Renji down and at the same time hit Kyone and left her seriously injured. And immediately after that, the rest of the hollows of hell appeared. Their shapes were closer to ghouls than the sight of the well-known hollows. The holes that distinguished them as a hollows became outside their bodies, and all of them were distinguished by the chains on their bodies. So the vice captains, including Ichigo, were surprised by that attack, and they didn't know they were coming from hell. But some vice captains, especially the new ones, showed us a good reaction, such as Atoi, who activated Shikai by writing the word "wake up" on his sword to release Shikai in the form of paper clips. Then Atoi mentioned the word animal, which turns those papers into the animal that Atoi wrote. In this case it was Taka, meaning hawk, and his ability was strong, so that those hawks turned that hollow into skeleton. And Yayahara seemed to depend on Hakuda mainly on her fight, so when she forms her ability with her hands in a certain position, she becomes as strong as a bear or a beast that gnaws at opponent. And in the midst of that storm of events, Kira also appeared, and I loved that so much. He helped Akon, and it's nice that he still rose vice captain, so there is a chance to see his Bankai in the next events. On the other hand, Renji was still confused by that attack, but before that he was more confused by the fact that his daughter is now in danger by coming to the site of the battle. While he was holding his daughter, if you noticed behind him, a gate began to open. In this scene it was clear that it was in the form of a jaw or teeth, and this is shocking because it is similar to the gate that Kazui opened, and it will appear more clearly in this scene when the 8th Espada Szayelaporro emerged from it, with hell butterflies next to it. Even though his appearance has changed, Renji was able to recognize him, being the one he fought the most side to side with Yuryu, and in the last fight against Mayuri. Renji was surprised and told him, "You were dead." Here Szayelaporro tells him that he was being thrown in hell. And this has been confirmed previously in one of the special chapters drawn by Kobo regarding the 4th movie. And so Xylo here gave us definitions that we can describe as a canon about the hell. Xylo said that hell, according to his expression, is great or nice, so that he is able to get rid of his association with being a hollow. And as we said, the whole becomes outside his body. And also while he's talking about how hate and pain are like tears coming out of his mind, horns came out of his head in a majestic form, as you can see. At the same time, in Soul Society, the captains were in the front of the grave of Okitake, ready to receive the holo who would be brought by the vice captains. But suddenly some black dots appeared in the air, and then Kyorako tells them that these things are coming from hell. Everyone is surprised. Hell? How? Here Kyorako will tell us and the captains about what he thought was a myth, but before telling the myth, Kyorako gave us a concept that is taught in the academy. And by the way, before I talk about what Kyorako will say about the concept of Ri, Kobo already mentioned this concept early in the story, in chapter 83, when Ichigo was training with Kako and Ganjo. Ganjo mentioned that his brother Kaien was distinguished and his spiritual power was in class 6, which enabled him to become a vice captain. So the concept of Ri already exists in the story. Kaien also previously mentioned in chapter 268 the same definition of Kyorako regarding the fate of the Shinigami after their death, but Kaien spoke in general and did not specify what happens to each class. All what he was mentioned is that the Shinigami when he dies becomes a Rishi that is components of the Soul Society, but with Kyorako he added a new things. So Kyorako said there is a term called Ri, which means spiritual authority, so that Ri is a unit of measurement set by the nobles. Again, as usual, they have a role in everything. This unit is to measure the concentration of Ryatsu in the Rishi, and it is divided into 3 sections. The first section concerns ordinary officers and its grade is 20. The second section concerns vice captains and it's limited to between 4 and 5. And the third section, which is grade 3 and above it, concerns the captains. So Kyorako says that when the Shinigami dies, he turns into a Rishi and returns to Soul Society. But the Shinigami of level 3, they cannot return to Soul Society, only through the ritual that Renji talked about at the beginning of the chapter, because their Ryatsu's level is high and therefore they cannot return automatically. But Kyorako said the legend says something else, a shocking truth. He said that despite that ritual, the dead captains cannot return to Soul Society no matter what, because the Ryatsu of the dead captains accumulating in Soul Society, and this may harm the balance of it. So as long as we can't keep them in Soul Society, the dead captains through this ritual, we send them to, and here Kobo transfer the camera to Szayelaporro, who completes the answer by saying they are sent to hell. And this fact that turned the scales of the story about what concerns hell, because according to the definition that Rukia gave us about hell, the ones hidden there are the souls who have acquired great sins in their human life, and this is what happened with the Holo Shrieker. He was purified by the Zanpakuto as a Holo, but because he committed major crimes in his human life, instead of being sent to the Soul Society, he was dragged to hell. And now we have another reason to be in hell, and it is about the Shinigami who are captains. And if you notice, sending captains to hell was basically based on maintaining the balance of the worlds, because Soul Society could not bear all those Ryatsu of the dead captains, but that was negatively reflected when Aizen was sailed with his Ryatsu and thrown into the Moken and defeating Yhwach, because their Ryatsu was considered like the balancing party that exists outside hell and keeps its door closed. But by defeating them all, the balance began to decrease and things got even worse when the Shinigami started sending the dead captains to hell. Imagine with me the Ryatsu of Yamamoto, Unohana and Okitake. Of course it will break the balance and open the gates, and that's what happened. Szayelaporro's exist was evidence of that, but if you notice Yhwach's Ryatsu, when did it completely disappear? It disappeared in chapter 686, and the reason was Kazui. This little tramp was the reason to remove the Ryatsu that has been wandering around for 10 years, and that Ryatsu seemed to have been playing a positive role in keeping hell shut, but Kazui removed it all, so this links him more with hell and his relationship to it. And so it becomes clear to everyone that this myth or legend, it is a fact and realistic. Shikai Okitake came out and stabbed Zylo, as did that arm that stabbed the Holo Shrieker in the manga. Okitake looks like he did the same thing. The Shikai appeared in a big way. Zylo says that hell itself has always been close to you. Didn't you ever think why the word hell was linked to those black butterflies? Then the gates of hell appeared. but this time is in a different form. And here we go back to Kazui. Notice the eyes that appeared at one of the skulls isn't similar to the eyes that Kazui shaped, but if it was proved that Kazui was coming to the same place where the gates appeared, the skull seems to be looking at Kazui and the other one is looking back. And here is the question: was Kazui really sending human souls to hell? There are several evidences indicating this, starting with the shape of the gate and even the title of the arc called The Jaw of Hell. The gate was opened in the form of a jaw, but why would Kazui send ordinary souls to hell in the first place? I don't think a kid would be so evil to send innocent souls to hell to play. And if it was actually proven that he sends souls to hell, it's most likely that Kazui is being manipulated by another person who may be from inside or outside hell. That person is the one who guided him to the gate next to that temple, which may be from an old time back to the original world, because hell, as mentioned in the novel, was not originally belonging to the three worlds: Soul Society, Way Commando, and the real world, because hell existed before them in the original world, but it was called the pit, and the unknown noble family was the one who spoke about the need to find a solution to that pit, and therefore it is possible that this family is responsible for everything related to hell, or one of its members may be the one who manipulating Kazui. And also something else, I cannot accept the idea of those who says that the captains will turn against Soul Society just because they are in hell. Because what Okitake did, I consider it to be exactly what the Guardian of Hell will be doing by bringing back Szayelaporro, who originally wanted to harm his friends. When we talk about Yamaji, Onohana, they are ready to go to hell in order to protect the Soul Society, because the origin of their personalities remains the same even if they go to hell. And this is what we witnessed with Zylo. His personality remained the same. So now I'm excited to see the next events regarding this arc, because it may be revealed to us many things, including the secret of the noble family that may be related to hell, and also Kisuke Urahara maybe have something to do with these things. So what do you think, guys, about hell? Tell me your comments and see you in my next video.